it's Jen from Tested. It's that time of year again where we share our favorite things. This is 2025. I got to go on some really cool adventures this year and bring back a bunch of treasures to share with you all. So let's dive into some of my favorite things of 2025. I'm going to start off with this cool looking little display panel here. This is what's called a flip dot display. That is the sort of format of this type of pixel sections that flip little dots. You would have seen something like this at a train station where they have the big board with all the different destinations, and it changes with the track location. You'll see these on MTA buses in a lot of different places. But you can get these displays. This particular one is by a company called Alpha Zeta. I believe they're in Poland, and they're just one maker of these. So they supply a lot of the industrial, commercial applications of this type of display. But you can find them on eBay. You can make your own sort of version of it. This one is the XY5 from that Alpha Zeta company. And essentially what it does is each of these little dots is like a little plastic tab. And every single one is a pixel. Behind the pixels, you've got this giant circuit board, and it's controlled with either like a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino. And it's basically sending magnetic current to the connections on each of these little dots. And they're just binary. So they're in one position, one color, when there is current applied, and when the current is turned off, they're in their other position. So each of these is just a yes or no sort of directional position, and it creates the display based on the contrast of the different panels. So this one has, I believe it's 14 by 28 pixels, which is quite large for one of these displays. It comes with the controller board and a whole sort of metal, aluminum display back on it. So this one is sort of a whole prefabricated unit that you can buy. But like I said, you can look on eBay for MTA flip dot panels. There's a bunch of tutorials on like Hackaday. So if you're interested in something like this, there are DIY options as well. This one is really cool. Right now you can see it's displaying the time. But they have an interface that's a web app, and you can actually go in and control the animation a bunch of different ways. So you can hook up sensors and have it respond and show different things. You can actually hook up a webcam, and this will display a pixelated version of what the video is capturing. There's just a bunch of functionality with this, and there's so many. It's satisfying to look at. It also sounds really cool. So I'm gonna unplug it and let it run its demo sequence for you. It's just a really lovely aesthetic piece, and then also has a ton of functionality as well. So I'm excited to dig into this a lot more. I want to program different sequences into it and find a place of prominence to display this in my office. Moving on to the next of my favorite things this year. This is actually somewhat related in an unusual way. So I've been really into all sorts of LED lighting, as many of us are here. And LED candles are not a new thing. We've seen these around for years. My main gripe with them is they don't look super real. You can tell when it's like a little LED tea light. This type of flameless candle came out, I actually don't know how long it's been around, but I haven't been able to find them anywhere for consumers until recently. I've seen them in like high-end sort of theater productions and escape rooms and things like that. What's different about these that I love is the flame piece actually moves, and it sort of dances the way an actual flame does. When the lights are out, these are pretty convincing. Like I've seen them in places and I couldn't tell whether they were actually candles or not. So basically there are a couple of different brands out there, different sizes. There's taper candle versions, there's little tea light versions. But the reason that these are similar to the flip dots is this little tab is sort of resting on top of like a wire or a little hook, and magnetic current is applied, which causes the little panel to dance. And then there's a single LED inside that's sort of projected with a lens up onto that little flame tab, and that's what's giving you the dancing flame effect. So I've got a couple different varieties here. This is sort of the name brand one that I could find. It's a company called Luminara. These are pretty pricey. I think for 3 candles, it was like maybe $60, which that's a lot. That's a whole lot to spend on candles. There are some other brands available. I found some cheaper ones, which I actually like the shape of better. The light temperature kind of varies between them. A lot of them have remote control function, so you can turn them on and off. There's also timer functions. These ones all take AA batteries, so you'll have to keep replacing those. It is just one LED, so I don't imagine that they'll eat batteries very quickly. But I have also found them on AliExpress, some of the like off-brand versions for way cheaper. So what I'd love to do is actually get some of those cheap ones and maybe do a teardown, see how this whole mechanism works, and maybe combine some of the features that I like from the other ones. Yeah, so LED flameless candles, Luminara, and some other brands. We'll drop a couple of links for you if you want to check these out. All right, so while we're on lighting, I was in LA a couple months ago and I got the chance finally to go to the legendary Apex Surplus. You've probably heard us talk about this on this channel before because it's something of a pilgrimage for anyone who's into antique tech or electronics or lighting or aviation. It is basically a salvage yard, graveyard of aviation and consumer industrial surplus. So they have a huge outdoor lot, I think it's like an acre, of just racks and racks full of old traffic signals and airplane windows and pieces of rocket engines and just everything you can imagine is out there. They, being in Los Angeles, have supplied Hollywood and the film industry for decades now. I think they've been there for like 70 years or something. And then inside is a just absolute treasure trove of all kinds of lights and buttons and knobs and handles and switches and just all of the most delicious antique hardware that you could ever lay eyes on. This place, I went the first time for a couple of hours, and in the same trip, I later went back because I needed to spend another couple of hours digging through. And because it's surplus, it's the kind of place that you don't necessarily go looking for a particular thing. You kind of go just to explore and experience all of the chaos of their collection. And you pick up things inevitably that you don't know what you're going to use them for, but you need to have them because they're just so gorgeous. I mean, look at these knobs. There's all these little Bakelite dials and gauges. Some of my favorite finds are these little ground glass indicator lights, walls, floor to ceiling, rack after rack of this stuff. And they also have, they kind of know who their audience is. So in the outdoor yard, there's a bunch of shipping containers, and you go inside the shipping container and it's dark and there's a bunch of machines sort of laying around. And on the wall, as soon as you go inside, you flip a switch and both walls of the shipping container just ignite in display panels and screens and buttons and all sorts of stuff. And it just looks like you're in the most amazing sci-fi control panel spaceship that you've ever seen. So they've got multiple shipping containers full of this stuff. I don't know what else to say. It is just a treasure hunter's dream. I don't know what I'm going to do with all of these things that I collected, but they're just so gorgeous. And I wouldn't have even known this stuff existed until I got to go dig around in their piles. So Apex Surplus, if you're in the Los Angeles area and into any of this kind of stuff, it's sort of a bucket list that you have to do if you're in the area. So wonderful, wonderful adventure in electronic antique tech. Well, the treasures from Apex are actually a perfect segue into my next favorite thing, which is this book. And really the book itself is just a introduction to an artist that is one of my favorite creators. This artist is called Holton. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a audio-visual creator based in Sweden, and he makes these absolutely gorgeous synthesizers and arcade cabinets using the same sort of style, the same aesthetic knobs and buttons and dials, very sort of Dieter Rams, minimalist, but they are just functional, beautiful sculpture pieces. They have a lot of whimsy to them as well, which I really like. This one's got like a little crab in one of the windows. The book it covers a lot of the stuff that he's shared online, so you can find a lot of this stuff on his website and on his Instagram. But the thing that I really enjoy about it is you can get super close up in a lot of these. So I didn't realize this until I had the book, but a lot of these pieces are made out of solid wood. So some of them, they're painted with a nice sort of uniform surface, but when you look up close, you can see the end grain of pieces that he's milled together. He's, machining different brass pieces. This is a super size faux, resistor on top of one of the pieces. Another thing I really like about this is it shows you some background about his workshop, which you don't often, I'm not familiar with any other coverage of sort of his workspace, and I'm always fascinated to see what people's setup looks like. There's just, look at the beauty of each. There's the tactility of these is what makes them so appealing. And he's done commission work for a number of notable musicians. I believe he's also in a bunch of different bands himself. But they're all sort of synthesizer, sculptural, just really beautiful, playful machines. There's definitely a nostalgia element too, which is certainly reflected at Apex as well. Some ferrofluid. So this book is the second of two books that Holton has released. The first one is Works 1. This is Works 2. They're kind of tricky to come by. I've coveted the first one for years and years, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere. I'm on the mailing list and everything, so as soon as this one was released, I was like, yes, I'm buying it, I'm signing up, and it got here in time for Favorite Things. So check out, if you can't get a hold of the book, at least check out Holton. His work is on his website and on Instagram, and they're just gorgeous. There's videos of them being played and being used, and yeah, such a huge inspiration. Keeping on the theme of nostalgic tech, this is an item that I picked up at our version of Apex here in the Bay Area, Urban Ore. I'm sure you've heard many of the Tested team talk about this place. It's one of our favorite spots to go, and it's just a salvage yard full of treasures, other people's trash, and very much our treasures. We go all the time. This is something that I found on the shelf there when I was walking through the aisles with a friend, and we were both like, what is it? It's cool looking, but what is it? And upon closer inspection, it is a sort of fan, but it's not the typical stand-up oscillating fan. This is what's called an air circulator. I believe they're called Hasek fans because of their sort of column orientation. So the way that this works, instead of blowing air directly at you or across the room and sort of rustling papers and making a bunch of noise that way, the way that this one works is by drawing the cool air that's at the bottom of the room, basically, and circulating it through the fan in here and then directing it out with the fins so that the cool air is now going up and the warm air is being pushed down. Obviously, heat rises, so the cooler air is going to be closer to the ground. Someone who is living in a loft like myself, we we don't really have air conditioning a lot of places here in California, so it gets pretty toasty. The loft is difficult to keep cool because it's just a concrete box with not a lot of ventilation, and the heat all rises up into the second story. So this thing actually, apart from being a cool space-agey looking thing, actually is super functional. I used this all summer to cool off the apartment. This one is by a company called Airflight, I believe. You've got like nice resin top and these sort of clear fins, which need a good dusting. This really delicious Bakelite knob here. And it looks like a previous owner, spliced on what looks to be some sort of other appliance cord. This needs a little bit of love, but it just looks really cool. It's very functional. I've seen these on eBay for quite a lot more than what I found it for at the salvage place, but you can find air circulators and this style of vintage air circulator on eBay and Craigslist and the like. Just another cool design, functional object in the array of things that I have acquired this year. Yeah, it works so well. So when I'm sitting right next to it, it obviously is blowing my hair around, but when it's just on the floor in a room, you don't really feel, it's not blowing air at you or like an oscillating fan where it's, going past you each time. It's just sort of creating a much more ambient, cool temperature, and you can feel the air just sort of, it's like a breeze is rolling through the space. It feels a lot more natural. All right, last one that I'm going to share with you. It wouldn't be a favorite things video of mine without sharing my latest acquisition from Milwaukee. This is a little tool I picked up this year on Marketplace. Wasn't something that I had even thought about needing, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a great price. And what does it do? So this one has a oscillating blade on it. You can put all sorts of different blades and attachments. It also comes with an attachment for a little detail sander that I'll show you. The main reason I picked this up, apart from that it was cheap and compact, is I've been doing some CNC milling at my place. A couple of years back on Tested covered the X-Carve Pro CNC machine, and I have now inherited it and use it frequently at my shop, which I would love to do some more projects with that machine. But as you're carving things, this is a piece of trim molding that my neighbor came and used the machine for. You oftentimes will leave tabs to attach the piece that you're milling out from the outside piece of material, so that as the end mill is going around, it doesn't completely free the piece and then end up shooting it off in another direction or running across it with the blade. So you've got these little tabs at the bottom, and they're often, depending on the size of your mill that you're using, they're often really narrow cavities in here, and the tabs are all the way at the bottom. So they're these really thin little pieces, and it's tricky to get in there. Some people will just use a blade, but the oscillating tool is actually perfect for that. So I'll turn it on. It's a bit noisy. And you get the idea. Essentially, this little blade gets into that crevice, and you can easily disconnect those tabs without damaging your actual piece of material. This one is a blade for wood. There's all different sort of sizes and shapes of oscillating tool blades. This one also has the detail sander attachment. So you just take the arbor nut off here. There is a fuel version of this, which is quite a bit more, I believe, to buy new, but the tool change operation you do with just a lever. So that would be, if you're interested in a tool like this, that would maybe be a worthwhile upgrade. This one I just found a good deal on and thought I would grab it. There's a speed control and there's an on-off button, and it takes the standard M12 Milwaukee batteries. It's pretty light, and I feel like it is so well suited for removing pieces from the CNC machine and sort of post-processing them a little bit, that I will probably just leave this and have it live with my X-Carve. So that is the oscillating multi-tool from Milwaukee. That's it for my favorite things for this year. I was so excited to get into some of this delicious antique tech and some lighting and some cool art. I hope that you've enjoyed some of these things. Go check out some new art and some cool places. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you next year.